Yay, recording in progress. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I am the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. We've been running these weekly book launches on Thursdays since the pandemic began. Gosh, over 2 years now. And we've had some amazing readings. And Bob is actually a returning somebody that we're celebrating. And I'm going to do a brief bio. Last time, if you missed it, you're in for a treat tonight because I think you're going to really like the fact that he has an ensemble that puts things to music. Bob MacKenzie grew up in a photo studio. Oh wait, there's somebody. I want to make sure I get this person in. This is where the multitasking doesn't work. In mid-century rural Alberta with artistic parents, his father was a professional photographer and musician, and his mother was a photo technician, colorist, and a painter. With his parents, Bob spent most of his childhood and youth camping in the forests of the Rocky Mountains and visiting his grandparents' homestead in northern British Columbia. By the age of 5, he had his own camera. You'll understand why he's multi-talented growing up in that environment. And ever since then has been shooting photographs and writing poems and stories. Raised in this environment, he developed a natural affinity for photography and for the intricacies of language. Bob's poetry has appeared in more than 400 journals across North America, and as far away as Australia, Greece, India, and Italy. Bob has published 19 volumes of poetry and prose fiction, and his work has appeared in numerous anthologies. The latest book is Unbroken, and I will put a link in there where you can get a copy. And when we start our kind of like getting a chance to ask Bob directly about his process, how this book came together, how does he keep music in there, we'll also ask you, Bob, where somebody could get an autographed copy. And with that, I'm going to mute myself, turn it over, spotlight you. Bob, thank you so much for returning to our Thursday night and celebrating with us. We feel really lucky.
Okay, and I have some friends here with me. Over on the percussion is Brian Howells, and next to him, Mike Myers, not the famous filmmaker, and Mr. Tracy Paul, and Chris Wyman. And these guys are going to help me out a little bit, starting now. So this evening from my book Unbroken, my friends and I will perform 2 poems. The first poem, set 60 years ago in small town Alberta, is Outliers.
It was 1961 in a small prairie town, and the 50s were still hanging on, held back by the dirt farmer culture, born long ago and not ready to change. A town of dirt streets and pickup trucks, of small shops and unbending beliefs. A world firmly grounded in the past, until summer brought the outsiders.
The lake was popular with tourists all summer. Once known as Snake Lake, now Sylvan Lake. 9 miles long but not wide, I recall. Shallow at the shore and quite far out, and a long sand beach at the south end between the downtown and the water. Thick weeds in the water near the shore where leeches wait to dine on boys' blood.
Population got 10 times bigger each summer. When outsiders filled the streets and beach and Lakeshore Drive became a fairground, midway rides and hucksters on each corner. Crowds big enough for a boy to hide, unseen for just a while, and feel safe. An outsider among outsiders, streets alive with carnival magic.
After grade 7, my family moved again. Always the new kid, always alone. It was time once more to make new friends. Hard in a school from grades 8 to 12, kids brought by bus from towns near and far. That first summer surreal on Lakeshore, serene in the sunshine on the beach, this boy not sure it's a dream or nightmare. Starting over again in Sylvan Lake was hard. In grade 8, I didn't make close friends. Hung out with kids my age at lunch break, shared some time, but were gone by a day's end. This school put me in the youngest group, down from the middle grade and junior high, and older bullies sought easy prey, like me as a new boy and Ricky. Ricky wanted to be a rock and roll hero. I just longed to fit in if I could. Ricky dressed in the rock and roll style, long blonde hair teased into a ducktail, clothes the essence of Gene Vincent cool. Standing in the shadows, I stood out, always the outsider looking in, the new kid who never felt welcome. I'm not sure how Ricky and I had met that fall, but we saw something in each other, shared deep inside, and became best friends. He the flash and me there in the shadows. Perfect prey for the high school bullies and the beatings that were sure to come after school and even on weekends, whenever they tracked us down. During the winter, Ricky and me turned 14. Little changed, but a new year began, without promise and cold as before. School closed for a week in December after the well froze in a cold snap. Then nothing much happened until spring, and Ricky and me breathed easier, though we knew the bullies were waiting.
It was 1961 in this small-minded town, and the 50s were still hanging on, held back by the dirt farmer culture. Born long ago and not ready to change, a town of dirt streets and pickup trucks, of small shops and unbending beliefs, a world firmly grounded in the past.
And Ricky and me were not welcome. It was never one bully, but a gang of toughs caught up and circled me after school. 1 against 1 was thought a fair fight, except one was 17 years old and the other just a boy of 14. And when the bully tired, he stepped out, made way for another to step in, keep on fighting the boy one-on-one. There'd be no such one-on-one fair fight for Ricky. If the bully saw me as weak prey, Ricky was someone perfect to hate, too pretty in his rock and roll way, a fairy like their dads would beat up on a Saturday night drunken whim. Homo queer they called him, all the names, beat him up though he was none of these. Who said this is the winter of our discontent got our world just right that cold winter. 14 years old and living in fear, drawn to each other by circumstance, bullied and beaten by too many, not able to fit in with the rest, our own small society of two, just boys and ever so alone. It was spring when the boys caught me in the schoolyard, caught me unawares in the lunch break, circled around by one pushed and hit me, egged on by others in the circle. Nothing for me to do but fight back. He didn't hear the circle's shouted tips. I heard them and beat him to the ground. Teachers stopped me, or I'd have killed him. Later that spring,
Ricky was found dead in the woods.
His killers never brought to justice. Police worked short and sweet and case closed. Who killed him was not a mystery. Ricky had been tracked and beaten to death. And I could do nothing about it. A 14-year-old boy on his own, haunted by a circle of bullies.
It was 1961 in a small-minded town, and the 50s were still hanging on, held back by its dirt farmer culture born long ago, and not ready to change. A town of dirt streets and pickup trucks, of small shops and unbending beliefs, a world firmly grounded in the past, where evil waits to dine on boys' blood.
In the summer, my family moved again. It was time once more to make new friends, always the new kid, always alone, just wanting to fit in if I can. And with a new school came new dangers, but I had changed and cannot forget. My friend found and lost in a moment, who could have been a rock and roll star. This is Susan.
The Lake, 1973.
I stand at the end of this long wood dock looking across the lake's emerald calm, set among pine-furred mountain guardians under a sky as blue as her eyes were once. Behind me the hill curves upward softly, rolling rock face softened by shallow soil spotted with scrub among soft wild grasses to where my cabin backs up to the woods. At times in this silence I think of her, pale blue summer dress blowing in the breeze. Here beside the lake smiling and waiting, fading away as early morning mist. Legend says there's no bottom to this lake, where spirits rise with the first morning light, are seen by those who most need to see them, are felt near even when the mist has gone. From my cabin porch, when the light is right, I almost see specters rise through the mist, wavering forms that look almost human. But mostly I sense that Susan is near. Between clear blue sky and emerald lake, these mountains are islands far from the world, where whispering winds may ease troubled minds. Yet still I see Susan in waking dreams.
The Boys, 1964.
As a teen, I set pins and clean washrooms in the Chinook Center's bowling alley, scour grills nights and weekends next door at the sidewalk coffee shop in the mall. Friends plan robberies they never commit. I don't build or explode bombs I design. Mein Kampf and Das Kapital are my texts, all in our afternoon coffee shop clash. At the next table, cats post of luring gay young barbers to bash in back alleys. Ex-soldier brags he watched his colonel rape a private, then blackmailed him for silence. We young poets and painters test the line, never cross over to the other side, our game only to prove we could do it. I take my books back to the library.
Susan, 1969.
Walking down 8th Avenue, I see her. A woman I know from work or somewhere. Hello, Jimmy, as she gets closer to me, and I say hello too and walk on by. I'd remember a woman this beautiful walking into the bookstore where I work, buying a book or browsing the tables, but nothing tells me she was ever there. Now I can't stop thinking of this woman who greets me by my name, then disappears, swallowed up by the busy downtown street, while I walk further along 8th Avenue.
City Life, 1968.
The sun seems to whisper, "Wake up, Jimmy." I roll over to avoid the bright light, glad to be able to sleep until dawn after 6 months in a northern work camp. It's a hard life working in the oil fields, grunt work from before dawn to after dusk, sleep in the bunkhouse with other young men. Worth it when a man can be paid so well. Back home in Calgary with 6 months' pay, I bought my new Mustang with oil field cash. Or next week, a blur of drinking and girls. Got smart and got a job as cash ran out. Once broke, some juggers went back to the rigs, to a bunkhouse blues and hard work in the fields. But I've managed to not blow all my wad, keep the Mustang, and a job selling books. I started writing poems during old field nights, stuck in the bunkhouse with not much to do, odd for a dropout who hated high school. The words just came and I wrote them down. Young poets came to the store and hung out, talked about readings in downtown cafes, asked me to come and read my own poems, my stories of the woods and of oil rigs. In cafes, I read of heaven and hell, forests of pine and forests of derricks, my gateway to a new world of wonders where the poets listen and accept me.
Susan, 1969.
Quiet talk washes over the cafe. Hushes as I take my place on stage, begin reading to the usual crowd. Then I remember her as she walks in. I stammer a bit as I read my set, carried away by eyes blue as the sky. Wonder if a reading is where we'd met. Look up just to see her walk out the door. Like a ghost, the woman is gone again. This woman who knows my name from somewhere. I should remember, though I don't know why. She haunts me even when she is not here.
The Cabin, 1972.
I leave the highway onto the dirt track, into pine woods, then turn in my driveway, park the car where it ends near the cabin, carry my load from that point to the dock. I feel at home in this lakeside cabin, bought in 1969 by oil field savings, to escape the pressures of the city, be forgiven in the peace of the lake. My rowboat breaks the lake's placid surface, draws lines like fish bones along the water to where I stop the boat at the center, do what I must, then sit a while longer. Once back at the dock, I tie up the boat, watch the last of the sunrise over the lake, take a last look across the green water, drive back to town in a reverent mood.
The Chat, 1969.
Like a James Stewart romantic movie, Susan and I meet by chance on the street, collide, and all her parcels go flying. After apologies, we trade names, and talk. Late in the fall, I finally met her. Coffee and chat in a downtown cafe, all the usual getting to know you, Jimmy and Susan together at last. I still don't know where I've met her before, but suppose it doesn't really matter. Susan and I spend our best time together, days and evenings of life in the present. The here and now is good enough for me. The past will wait a time to let it out, set Susan free from what she fears the most, while now she's still a mystery to me.
The Fall, 1971.
She's still magic to me after 4 years. Susan of the soft blue eyes and deep soul, secrets in her past that she can't reveal, won't tell even to her longtime lover. Even now, Susan keeps her past to herself. Between us, a wall I can't get past. At times I see terror, too, in her eyes, created by things she may see or hear. Susan still resists living together, keeps her apartment close as her secrets, looks over her shoulder far too often. Nothing I could do from behind the wall.
Fear, 1972.
Something happened as the new year began. Terror overcame Susan's state of mind as shadows of her past came to haunt her where she hid behind a wall of secrets. Fear seemed to build a newer, higher wall, at last to shut me out almost completely. Not able to free Susan from her past, not able to help her in the present. One argument, too many over secrets, too many words said in haste and anger. Susan left my life quiet as she'd come. Without fanfare or goodbye, she was gone. It was as though she had never existed. The phone she never answered was cut off. Rent never paid to hold her apartment. Her work called the police with concern.
The Favor, 1972.
When Susan had asked me one last favor, I resisted, though Susan's mind was made up to go ahead with or without my help, and I couldn't let her go it alone. Susan and I sat and talked all that night until Susan slept while I held her hand, waiting for the first morning light to come, then took Susan with me to the cabin.
The Lake, 1973.
Standing at the end of the dock at dawn, watching the sky and early light turn blue, my thoughts turn to city night images, the blue of Susan's eyes and her blonde hair. Looking out over the lake just at dawn, I see Susan sometimes, or think I do, the lady of the lake, there in the mist, rising from the water, then gone again. They say the lake is bottomless. They say a body in the lake will sink, but may float up if you wait long enough. Ghost on the water, then gone forever. Thank you.
I think we're all speechless. Yeah, haunting ending. Y'all can unmute and go ahead and clap because I think we're already doing that.
Amazing.
Well done.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Well done.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was wonderful.
thank you.
I'll tell you what, they did a fabulous job, all the musicians and Bob and Roswell with the camera angles and the audio, just seamless perfection. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bob, you're going to enjoy looking over the chat section and seeing the comments here. Yeah, bravo to the crew, musically and in all ways. And I know a lot of people were saying the backup vocals and the congas were fabulous. Yep. Oh, that's wonderful. So in a moment, guys, we will have Bob in front of us and ready to kind of have dialogue and ask questions or answer questions.
Yeah,
that we
feels okay.
And so if you have questions.
Yeah, as long as it sounds okay.
It's fabulous.
Thank you.
I love that almost all of us found lines that were resonating, and quite a few of us did the keeps her apartment close as her secrets.
Yeah.
It was hard to pinpoint
Well, I'm glad it,
one thing because it was all coming together so beautifully.
okay, I guess I'm live now.
Hey, Bob.
Always nice
Yes,
to
you
know.
are. We've got you. Hopefully I'm not feedbacking. If I am, somebody give me a thumbs up so I can figure it out.
I'm not hearing anything here.
Okay. We'll give you a minute, Bob. So
For
y'all
what?
can understand why I quickly said yes to a second event celebrating Bob's
heard
newest
Bob?
book. Because much like this one, it was a multi-dimensional
Oh, my-
experience.
You hear her now, Bob?
And
I can. Did you know my mic dropped down to my stomach?
I'm so glad we
Wondering.
got to hear that. Thank you, Bob. Yeah.
It was. Sorry. No, that's okay. Nothing like a bit of rumbling in the middle. There you go. Okay, we're set now.
Can you hear us, Bob?
I definitely can hear you.
Fabulous.
I can hear you and see you.
Yay, that's fabulous. Well, first off, I just want to say outstanding, amazing. I just really felt like this dramatic presentation was seamless. And I loved the backup vocals that were so delicately placed back there. And then, you know, the words of the poetry that you were reading, that there was two of y'all at different times reading. Very powerful stories, and particularly, you know, the first one, oh my gosh. I wanted to go back to one of the lines. Yep. Standing in the shadows, I stood out, always the new kid looking in. Yeah, the words and music were just perfect for that. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Feel free just to unmute yourself. We're very casual here. I don't see any that I missed in the chat section. So jump in, anybody.
Okay, I'm being adjusted.
Yeah, so you can see.
Okie doke.
Right?
Yeah, no, I can see. Be nice if the meeting being recorded thing, if someone got it and made it disappear.
Oh,
Out front,
I see what you're saying. That's on that side. Okay, thank you, Kim. That's an excellent question. So the question we have, Bob, was how did this crew of people start working together?
Oh, well, they just come here and do it. Um, I no, seriously. No. I carefully selected who the people were, but in fact, this performance is unrehearsed. We did work from a script, and so I chose people who are talented and have a ton of experience each. And we're able, therefore, to improvise without having 14 rehearsals. And
It's
and
remarkable.
I have that experience because I've been doing that for most of my career. I first time I worked with a musician was in, I believe, 1980, which is a lovely woman who played flute with me. And then ever since then, I've worked with musicians. So,
That's I actually am kind of speechless now because I assumed that y'all had practiced a lot because I have to say everybody did such a fabulous job and also yeah, musically intuitive. The timings were impeccable. I agree, Regina, because that you actually kind of caught me off guard. It was so seamless. And Roswell had done a fabulous job the previous time, but this time I just felt like the camera angles, everything was just so precision. So I'm surprised it wasn't practiced out, multiple times. That's impressive. I mean, that's
no,
impressive.
well,
So many levels.
Roswell is probably the best studio in Kingston, so that helps. And the others, like I say, they've got a lot of experience behind them. And I've found, and I tell people what I do, and they say that won't work. But I've always been surprised that I can just throw together a bunch of musicians, often very impromptu, off the floor at a club, say, and it always works. And I'll tell you a secret about how well it works. I suggested that since I was going to wear one of these pseudo Hawaiian shirts, I suggested
No,
that
I was
Chris also wear one. And he showed up and I showed up and guess what? Same shirt.
I almost
That's how
asked
well
you
it worked.
about that. Like that's crazy. That's awesome. But I was gonna say, I like that you both had the same shirt on because in essence that was kind of like twins telling pieces of the story, and
Yeah.
yeah, kismet. Yeah, I mean
But
that's just synchronicity
but it was
beyond
totally
synchronicity.
spontaneous.
Yeah.
Neither of us knew until we walked in the door.
So
I
when
love the
you
magic of it.
Yeah, no, I can understand why. I would feel that same way. With this most recent book, how long were you working on it, Bob, and how did it kind of come together? If we could talk about the literary process as well.
Okay, less time than I would have expected. My publisher contacted me. They had published my previous book, and the publisher contacted me and said, "I'd like to do another book of yours." And I did because the first one was sort of collection of poetry through my career, including some brand new stuff. So it was pretty random. I thought, okay, I write long poems, and it's real hard to get them published with modern publishers because they want everything to be 40 lines or less, or 10 lines or less, or something. So I thought, okay, I'm going to write brand new material, and I'm going to write long poems. So I wrote these 6 poems. He contacted me in January, late to mid-January. I sat down and started writing. I had a manuscript together, sent it to him, and he published the book on May 13th. So that was a really, really quick turnaround.
And so,
And
with
these were 2 of the poems I wrote.
yes, no, I mean that is a quick turnaround. And I was going to say, I had talked to you before we started recording about where somebody could get a signed copy. I mean, I know they can go through Cyberwit to buy a copy, but is there a way they can get a signed copy from you?
They could contact me directly. That's the only way because this
Okay.
hand is required. But then they get a nice signed copy in very bad handwriting with my fountain pen. And no, if you, I have no problem with my email address being given out.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you.
And yeah, if people write and say, I'd like a signed copy of your book, the book US is $15. So we're charging 20 in Canada. So you'd pay me for the book, and I'm thinking another $5 should cover postage.
Postage.
So 20
Okay.
bucks. And so if you could
So,
e-transfer or send me a check or PayPal me or something, and inquire how to pay when you send the email, and we'll figure out something, and I will sign a book for you.
perfect. Thank you so much, Bob. So I'm going to put your email address into the chat section. Everybody has access to that. And I did make the link available directly to Cyberwit if you wanted to buy it through
Yeah.
that and you want a signed copy. Thank you. Because, I know it's
Okay,
lovely.
that's
to
another
have-
surprise. Yeah. It's another
What's another
surprising thing, by the way. I tend to be, I finally figured out, I thought I was just an outsider, but I decided I'm outlier poet in Canada. So it's very difficult to get anyone to publish a book of my poetry here. The publisher is the biggest publisher in India. And the amazing thing is, in 2021, the publisher wrote to me and said, I'd like to publish a book of your poetry. And then he published it, and then he came back this year and asked again. Where, as opposed to having Canadian publishers just ignore me. So,
But you had 19
and
books, so you had a few publishers. And Cyberwit has been the last 2 books.
yeah, I had, and then there was the one before that. They also asked me for a manuscript. Is in New Westminster, BC. So that was also a surprise. So things have changed a bit, but the rest of my books some have been self-published, but also, and I'm very proud of this. If you know what a book artist is someone who works on a letterpress printer and hand sets all the type. They usually use handmade paper. They make the books. They bind them by hand stitching them. They make these beautiful numbered books, often signed and numbered. And several of my books have not my prose fiction, but the poetry books, and my first fiction book actually too, were from book artists, and so I'd read the first one, the fiction one, from 1973, was 100 copies, but for that I got $100 royalty, plus I got a copy of the book, and a couple of years ago, I did a search. That book, there were only 100 copies made. They're in important libraries all over Canada and the USA, and collectors are, depending on quality, are pricing that $100 book at between $1,000 and $1,500. So that just blows my mind.
And yes, and I think anytime you have a handmade book like that, it's art within art, really.
Exactly, it's
wanted to
wonderful.
make sure that I was asking everybody, please unmute and ask a question if you want to talk to Bob about his process.
Yes, please.
Most recent book.
Hi, I'm Regina.
Hi, Regina.
I just had a quick.
Yes.
Are your poems based in like real experience?
Yes and no. Maybe. The thing is, real experience, but maybe not mine. I'm a sponge for one thing. If I have peripheral vision that goes that way, and I'm very easily distracted. So if I sit in a restaurant or a bar or I'm on a bus, I hear and see everything. and I retain it. And so and then also people, for some reason, even people I don't know will come up to me and tell me their life story. And so I draw on all of that. And yes, I draw some of it from my own life, of course. You can't help it. But so, yes, for instance, telling the story of those boys being bullied. I mean, growing up in the 50s, everybody got bullied. Even the bullies got bullied. And so there's a lot there. And it's pretty bad stuff. And there was parental abuse a lot of the time. And so the whole thing about growing up through elementary school and high school is very powerful for a lot of people. And so I felt it was a good story to tell. And then the other, well, it's really a movie story. I mean, it's these two people who never meet, and then they do. And then things don't go so well, and then they do go so well. So that movie illusion in the middle of it was really, how many movies have you seen that go like that? Especially in the 50s with, I don't know, Cary Grant or somebody. The advice given a lot of time is write what you know. If you write about what you know about you, you'll run out of stuff pretty fast. So I think the advice should be write what you know about, and use yourself as a pole to bring the rest in.
That's
Thank
awesome.
Okay, Ron.
Question,
By actual
Regina.
hand. Me? Okay.
I'm sorry. I like that.
Ron had a question, so jump in, Ron.
Okay. Hi, Bob. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. And I'm a real fan of the style of poetry, or some might call it spoken word or even rap, set to music like that, really rhythmic music. And I was just wondering, and you do it so well, was so innovative, but a couple favorites in the past, I was wondering if you were ever influenced or like them. Frederick Shevsky wrote something called Coming Together, or Attica, which is a classic, wonderful piece from the 60s, I think. And then there's Gil Scott Heron, The Revolution Shall Not Be Televised. And it's I caught that vibe a little bit in your stuff, although it was very different and innovative. But I caught that combination of rhythm and, poetic, lyricism, and it was just wonderful. And it's the first time I've heard it live, so thank you.
Okay, if you recognize that similarity, I think it's because I and these other poets, if you look at their ages, we really grew up through the same era, and that would have been the real influence. Shevsky, frankly, I didn't remember his name, but when you mentioned the piece, I do remember that. But no, it wasn't an influence on me, because I discovered that piece long after I was already doing this. And Gil Scott Heron did wonderful stuff, but again, not an influence. I had odd influences. I come out of the 16th century, out of Donne and some of those people, the metaphysical poets, and also out of T.S. Eliot, who wrote long, wonderful things, and some great Canadian poets. So I have very broad influences. And my performance actually mostly comes out of music. It comes out of rock and roll, comes out of Edith Piaf, comes out of Bertolt Brecht. In terms of the style of performance, it's not from poets at all, but from theatrical sources and musical sources.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah, Dolores.
Dolores.
Who composed the music?
Nobody. It's totally improvised. I just gave the guys the words and said, do music to fit the moods, and we never rehearsed. So they just made it up as they went along.
My mind is blown. Now I want to call them up and say, hey, do ours too. Do open mic.
Bob, do you listen to music as you write?
Not that music, obviously. I do listen to music a lot, and I love live music in clubs and so forth at concerts. But I and I listen to music in the car. But when I write, usually the music, if there is any in my head. However, sometimes I will, if I hear an intriguing melody that somebody plays, I may actually write the words as though they were song lyrics to that music.
Oh.
But then I don't do them as songs. I also very rarely and only with collaborators usually, I do write song lyrics.
Okay.
Excellent questions. Well, before we let Bob out of the hot seat and head towards open mic, does anybody else have a question? And if not, can we take a moment just to thank Bob and his team for entertaining us and just blowing my mind tonight. Thank y'all.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you. You've been wonderful. I'm glad
we.
we could be together.
Me too. I'm so glad we got to celebrate Unbroken with you. Just I can't wait to dive into the long poems myself. But it was fabulous
Yeah,
to.
well, they're pretty dark this time, Malika. So
You had told me that. Yeah,
you've been warned.
yeah. I'm good
Yeah,
with
you've
dark.
been warned.
I'm good with dark. And I really think that first one, a lot of people responded to because it was a tragic story, but also very powerful and one, like you said, a lot of people relate to. So
Yeah.
that's real. I have Regina,
Okay, well.
Karen, and Kim written down for reading. And I know Kim's having some internet problems, so we'll see how it goes. There are a ton of comments in the chat section, Bob. And once again, I'll send that to you so you can read through, just the lines that resonated and the things that we wrote while you were.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Yeah, I love
Really
feedback,
want
not
to.
the other kind.
Yeah, no, you're really gonna.
Okay, well, while you do the open mic, I'm going to go into the other room and watch.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, you guys are great.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Yes, I've got Dolores added. So I'm going to come to you, Regina, first.
I can't talk. Appreciate it.
And then give me just a moment and we will.
I don't have a job right now. I can't help you out.
I don't want him to miss you.
No, I don't have anything. I don't even have any cash. So I appreciate
We'll
it.
give him a moment there. My mind is still blown that there's not a ton of rehearsal.
I want a band for when my book comes out.
Right? I want that band. I want that group.
I'm telling you, oh my gosh. I mean, it was almost like they knew. I was just floored.
Same.
Oh, yeah.
I still have no place for that. And also that Roswell was doing camera changes. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like it's so intuitive, but so seamless that it just seemed to me as if this was, days and days of practice.
It was like a theatrical production. It really was like a face. It was great. It was.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
You invite them to the UU thing that we do.
Right. Oh my God. Sam should be here.
I agree.
I think he really would love this.
Yeah.
I knew he would. Yeah.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So my sense is we probably got him in place. Let's go ahead and open up the open mic, and we will begin with Regina, then move to Karen, and then Kim, and I do have you, Dolores, as well.
Malika, can I go say my husband is knocking on the door? Can I?
Yes, you want me to go to someone else first?
Yes, that'd be great.
Perfect. You're good.
Thank you.
I'd like to go to Malika.
All right. I will come to Karen next. Oh, she said she might not be able to be here, and look at that. So send her goodwill, guys. I will come to Kim next. And Kim, if you're having, there you go. I see. I was going to say,
I'll give it a whirl.
We'll give it a shot. Fingers crossed.
I'll give it a whirl. Thanks for the fantastic poetry, Bob and crew. Amazing. I'm going to read a short poem from my new poetry collection, for which I am very grateful, from Terrapin Books. Official publication date, October 31st, a very witchy day for the book to come out, which is great. This poem is called Cool Glass of Water. A blizzard of fuchsia speckles all down my shirt and Mama's apron. Rivulets of sweat down the left side of her face, and my legs stuck to the cracked vinyl seat, the kitchen getting hotter by the minute, but we're grinning like damned fools over 8 pints of wineberry jam, made from the berries we picked together while ticks and poison ivy inched up our trousers, and we sang She's Coming Round the Mountain and who knows what all at the top of our lungs, hoping to scare away the snakes. I am 10, and I am spading up the last gobs from the kettle with the wooden spoon, and I am in love with her. And if I could, I would drink that memory like a cool glass of water every day of my life.
Oh, that was gorgeous. And just to let y'all know, I was fortunate enough, blessed to be allowed to read Kim's collection in advance for, writing a blurb. And I have to tell you, it is a gorgeous collection. That poem, just the tip of the iceberg, my friends. Yeah. And Regina said, I can feel that image, legs stuck to the hot vinyl seat. Just fabulous. Dolores, I'm headed your way. Thank you. Sometimes somebody nodding makes all the difference. So I see you now. Don't forget to unmute. Okay, doke.
So as a thank you to the band that played tonight, I want to read something to you guys about the Bay City Rollers. I'm expecting that most people would remember something about them. So this is Bay City Rollers lore. The bearded, barrel-chested Glasgowian, steeped in fame stories and glories, was a proud papa, planning to take his 2 boys across the ocean and settle in the center of Albion's northern annex, peopled by Canucks. Though both boys were lanky fumblers with growing appendages uncoordinated, Papa's heart burned wildly on the boys' promise and princely beauty, how to regally adorn them for 1970s classrooms in Canada. At the time, boys sprouted bangs, sides long, spiked. The Bay City Rollers crowned the look, adding long gaucho-like pants, but tartaned Highland chic. The papa's mind accepted this as the height of promising fashion for his tender fames. The Highland hipsters, ages 12 and 14, walked to their new school, gaucho swinging, ankles showing, casually lordly. Red, black, yellow crisscrosses on mark for the shock of mockery let loose. Are you expecting a flood? Young Toronto ruffians esteemed the tower and the leaf only.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Oh, it's so, casually lordly. Yes. It was just nice to hear the word gaucho somewhere. All right, Regina, I'm gonna come to you now, and then Ron, I will be heading your way.
Okay, so this poem was just written today. I'm in a group called Poets in Practice, and right now we're working, ironically, with responses to songs. And so this song is by Tori Amos, and it's Silent All These Years. And in that, she talks about, she questions the value of deep thought. So the title of this poem is A Thought. We are brought to the brink of decision by thoughts that can build or destroy. We think, therefore we are consumed by thoughts, really deep thoughts. We leave words unsaid and worlds unexplored. We let love loose, never spoken, let fear linger, never addressed. We dismantled what might have been created to save us. For fear born in entrenched thought often paralyzes. Perhaps we must balance instinct and intellect, consider the acceptable risk, milk the unreleased venom that we might live, turn out the bright light that we might trust, pull the plug from the bleeping machine that we might not languish, that we might give ourselves the chance to rally, to maybe even overcome. Constant thought, deep thought, continual deep thought smothers our humanity, leaves us in stasis, a stasis that only allows the murderous thoughts and prayers. Many have died while we have been thinking.
Holy smokes. Thank you, ma'am. Oh, many have died while we have been thinking. That just really.
Right.
Whew. Okay, Ron, I'm headed your way. Regina, there's some comments in the chat section. I wanted to make sure you saw them.
Okay, so I don't know what to do with this poem. It's been sitting around because it's kind of weird, and I think it's about the tendency of the male of the species to like think with his eyes. And anyway, that's all I have to say about it. It's called My Brain Stem is on Fire. My medulla oblongata is in conflagration. My synapses scrape two pieces of flint together, and now a bonfire burns in my lower regions. From my cerebellum down through my colonial spinal column, which under orders from my occipital lobe and a few other areas I'll be discreet about, has set ships sailing to body parts as yet undiscovered. For instance, I'm under orders to ogle the woman 2 tables down at this jazz bar, the one whose eyes are an estuary into a dark forest. But the beard next to her stirs her interest, a one-man navy plotting an invasion. She can't be serious. They're negotiating a treaty. Still, I can't take my eyes off her because I'm under orders from the command center, and all my clear-headed thinkers in here, they've hot-footed out the back door screaming. My brainstem set their hair on fire, every spineless one.
Every spineless one. So that's fabulous. Yeah. Wonderful.
Right.
This is the reason why our open mic is just fabulous. And you don't know what to do with it. You send it out. You had a idea, Regina?
My husband just said that was honest.
Yeah, true story, right?
You got to, we can't, I have a lot of politically correct ones, but sometimes you just got to say it the way it is.
Awesome. Yes. And your husband's saying, yeah, I like that poem. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we have enjoyed each other's company, and we are at the end of our open mic. And I just want to say thank y'all for joining another fabulous celebration of a book launch. I like that we get to support each other and our community by our presence. And I think y'all are like me tonight. It was fabulous. I'm gonna watch it again just to go, holy, they did not practice. How? I have to practice just to read, and it's the stuff I wrote.
Yes, thank you for doing this.
I don't
So
get it.
grateful the community is in Canada. I just think that's just
Yes. Yes,
the
right?
beauty of Zoom.
Yep. Yep. And don't
Yep.
forget, we will be celebrating Kim at some point. And I love that Halloween is the book publication date. It's fabulous. All right, guys, be well. I will see you
Thank
next week.
you. Thank you.
My pleasure.